Can I try that question again?
Yes, I will ask it to you again, and then you can answer it again.
Perfect. Thank you.
We are here, here together in this holy moment, and we're grateful for the winding road that brought us to this place. We are here, here together.
What springs to mind when I ask you about your religious or spiritual background?
I think the biggest thing that springs to mind for me is actually that I grew up in a Waldorf community. And so, for people who aren't familiar with Waldorf, basically it's a variety of education based on the philosophy of Rudolf Steiner. And it has a lot of elements specifically of Christianity that are kind of like woven into the educational philosophy. And it also has a lot of just like world religions elements. And so there's just a lot of things with that I've really carried with me throughout my life. So I think a big example of that is that at Waldorf at Waldorf schools, there's a lot of focus on like European pagan holidays, like All Hallows Eve and May Day and solstice. And so that made those holidays really important to me because they were something that I would look forward to when I was a kid.
Anything about you or your family that you want to share with others at church?
Sure. So I grew up in Central California and my family's still there, but I have a lot of connections to extended family, both in the Midwest of the US and on the East Coast. And so it's really exciting at church when I get to meet folks who are from those regions and talk to them about that. In terms of like my community, a lot of my community is actually folks who I went to the elementary school that I was talking about with. So two of my friends who I went to K-8 with came over from Port Angeles and went to Pride with me, which was really wonderful. And so I still have a lot of those connections with the kids that I grew up with. As an only child, that was like really, really important to me to have a strong community of kind of pseudo siblings in my school. And that's really something that when I look at the children's program here, I really want to try to emulate that. I want to give kids who are only children or from smaller families the opportunity to build a strong community of children who they feel really comfortable with and who they've known for many years.
When has spirituality failed you, lifted you up, or surprised you?
Can I talk about religion?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that a moment for me when religion really failed me was in high school. So I went to high school in a pretty fundamentalist Christian area of California, and it was really hard because religion became a really big way that there was social exclusion in my high school. The Christian group was really big, and I don't identify as a Christian, and so I specifically didn't identify as the type of Christian that the Christian group was supporting. So it was really hard for me because I had a lot of friends who actually like converted during high school and kind of joined that social group. And I felt really excluded, I think is how I would, as an adult, I look back on it and I'm like, oh, I was just feeling really like bummed and excluded that I didn't get the support of a youth group or something like that all of my friends had. So that was kind of a big moment where I feel like I was really missing out because of religion. But then on the other hand, that was actually around the time that I started going to a UU congregation, which was a really small lay-led congregation in my community. And I think that sort of gave me a little bit of that thing that I was really sad I was missing out on with my friends in high school.
What do you hope our congregation will do together, both in the world and for each other?
I think that something I have been thinking a lot about recently is finding ways to actively love marginalized people rather than like tolerate or accept or coexist with marginalized people. And I feel like that's a distinction that's become more clear in my mind over the past few years, where I've realized that we need to do so much more than accept. We really need to love. And so for me, in the youth program, kind of the way that that's sort of crystallizing is that I'm thinking a lot about what we can do specifically to love trans kids, because I think a lot of trans kids feel really unloved in religious communities, from conversations that I've had with kids. So yeah, I think that the bigger thing that I would hope for is just more active love. And I have the certain ways that I want to put that into practice in the youth program, but then, on a much bigger scale, there's the ways that we should just put that in practice as we interact with the world.
And is there anything else you want to say to others at church, especially families, but just in general?
I think the biggest thing I want to say to families is thank you for trusting us. I know that the pandemic has been really difficult for a lot of people because it's been hard for people to make concrete plans and follow up on those plans. And I know that's something that I've really struggled with too. And I just really appreciate all of the families who keep showing up and keep bringing us their children and keep trusting us to create good programming for those children, because man, like it's really an honor, you know.
And I'm going to throw in an extra question. We've kind of touched on it a little bit already, but you're moving this year into a youth advisor role to kind of help rejuvenate our youth group, which has been mostly dormant for a lot of the pandemic. So make us your sales pitch. What do youth have to look forward to at church this year?
Basically, what I'm looking to do with the youth program is make it as opposite to what the youth have had to go through during the pandemic as possible. So all I really want is to give youth a chance to create in-person community. And what that'll probably look like in a concrete way is I really want to just organize activities that will facilitate fun conversations. And I kind of have a lot of things in mind. Personally, I can talk a little bit about my own interests and skills. So I'm a person who has experience in outdoor education. And because of that, I would really like to find fun ways for us to interact outdoors, whether that just means making a campfire and learning to make campfire foods, whether that means, you know, going kayaking again. That was a really nice way for youth to get to interact outdoors. But yeah, that's a big thing for me, is just being the opposite of the pandemic, being outside as much as possible, being, you know, face to face as much as possible. Specifically, I'm also looking toward creating more intergenerational connections between the youth and the adults of the church, because that's something that's been really fragmented by the whole Zoom situation. We've kind of had a breakdown of, okay, these are the people who go to social justice story time, and these are the people who are doing Minecraft, and these are the people who are going to the services on Sunday, and these are the people who are in the choir. And I really want to start doing a little bit of mixing, and both giving the youth chances to support and work with the younger children, but also giving them chances to receive support from the rest of the congregation.
That's very exciting. And you are pretty crafty too. We've done a few fun things, so.
Yeah, and we had, among the youths that were at the summer camp, we had a lot of interest in crochet, and I was super psyched about that because fiber arts are a big hobby for me. So if we can make more fiber arts happen, that would be lovely.
Give us strength to go.
I'm going to do my throat clearing and all that. Jaws?